these policies, these constitutional principles that we're defending here are not just arcane, idealistic things. They have a direct impact on our nation. My colleague is laying it plain. This is what should be animating everybody, is that when you attack the health care of millions of Americans, it doesn't mean you're curing disease and they're not going to have a demand for health care. The demand is still going to be there. And if they're not getting their health care reimbursed, if they're not getting preventative care, if they're not getting regular checkups, they're going to put more demand on our hospitals, which are going to make our hospitals have longer wait times in the emergency rooms, that are going to have our hospitals have less reimbursed care, and our hospitals are going to strain and buckle under that, thus driving up the costs for everyone. You make it plain, and people should hear this. When the president lies to the American people and says he's about all of the above energy costs, he's not. He's about advantaging certain energy over other energy, and it's actually the lower cost energy that he's attacking. Those projects are actually going to lower people's bills. So here he is raising the healthcare costs for everyone, hurting the hospitals that we all rely on, and driving up energy costs for everyone, and giving an advantage to our competitors like the Chinese, who are racing on energy projects in the renewable energy space. But it's even more than that, as my colleague knows. When you have boneheaded attacks on our Constitution, as opposed to going through Congress where there's deliberation and debate, you are actually raising costs in other ways too. As my colleague knows, Americans right now are seeing the investments that we make that return for the taxpayer significant returns in science and research. We are a nation that has exploded industries that the rest of the world is trying to catch up to us. We are the nation that invented so many great things by funding research, basic research and technology. And so attacks on universities, where they are now reporting less postdoc programs, less PhD programs, less research going on in America, you are ceding the pathway to human endeavor. You're closing it off. As my colleague was saying, attacks on universities, making them come and bend a knee. Those universities are saying, no, I will not bow to you. You are not my king. And then that king, wannabe king, cuts fundings to our greatest research institutions, not in America, the greatest research institutions on the planet Earth that have spawned new innovations, from quantum computing to fission and fusion, to robotics, to medical sciences. When you cut off the resources to those things, you are starving the goose that has been laying the golden egg for human endeavor, for industries and more. It has a cost when a president goes rogue and does what he wants to do. It has a cost, not just to our liberty, when you make universities, when you make businesses, when you make law firms bow before you or be punished by you. It has a cost to our liberty, but it also has, as you are saying so plainly, what most Americans are saying over and over again, is it has a cost financially to American families who are right now struggling. As you have said time and time again over these last dozen plus hours, Americans are hurting. Americans are afraid. Americans are worried that they're going to get a diagnosis from a doctor that's going to drive them to bankruptcy. Americans don't know how they could take care of a sick child and pay the rent. And this is directly being attacked by a president who is doing things that are driving up their energy costs, who are driving up their medical costs, who are driving up their grocery costs, and who's failing to make the investments that keep America ahead of the competition we are seeing in places like China. It is boneheaded. It is financially imprudent. It is hurting America as well as our constitutional framework. The genius of our founders in this great experiment that is now 250 years old, that has put us at the top of all of humanity in innovation, in human success, is now being jeopardized after 250 years by a president who is claiming authorities that the Constitution and our framers never intended to rely to be in the executive. And so, God bless America, my colleague from Oregon is giving a master's class today. A master's class now for 14 plus hours, closing in on 15. A master's class in helping people understand not just constitutional principles, but how all of us are invested in this Constitution, how all of us are invested in making sure that nobody steps outside of those constitutional authorities, because when it does, we have seen what has happened when McCarthyism rose. We have seen what's happened when demagoguery trumps common sense, common cause, common purpose, and a shared devotion to that flag. And so I ask my colleague right now, we haven't even had a year of this president, and we have watched things happen where this body has not even called an oversight hearing. When our very national security was in jeopardy. When you have Americans at the highest level of our Defense Department using a commercial app with reporters on it to release classified information, we didn't hold one oversight hearing. When we took the extrajudicial step to blow up speedboats, there has been no oversight into that claimed attack on people that were allegedly smuggling drugs. We are constantly not doing our job, which is not a partisan one. It is to hold this president in check, that no one operates without accountability and without transparency, because power is corrupting. And when you let someone do what they want to do, when they want to do it, without a check or a balance, it is corrupting. And we know that because we have the most corrupt president, dollar for dollar, of any president we've ever seen, through his crypto schemes, from him exchanging his authorities for compensation that makes him a richer man. Unchecked power leads to corruption. Our founders knew it and designed this system thusly. And so I ask my colleague now, that sense of urgency of a president who has been in office nearly 10 months, if my colleagues in this body do not start standing up and doing their job, holding hearings on his tariff policy, holding hearings on his agricultural policy, holding hearings on his healthcare policies, and I say that generously because they're not policies, they're not thoughtful, they don't reflect the wisdom on both sides of the aisle. They are hurting people. If we continue to let this president proceed unchecked, if we continue to let him flaunt the rules of our Constitution, if we continue in open eyes to do things like he is doing right now by ripping apart the White House, not going through any of the process whatsoever, that is literally contrary to the laws of what the people's house, not Donald Trump's house, the people's house, if we continue to let him go in this way without checks or balances, I ask my colleague, what are the consequences that you fear might happen in the next 10 months where this president, who wants to be an autocrat, is in the White House?
The consequences of the failure of oversight